The last harvest in ancient Babylon, 1700 years before Christ. The land was everything. Fertile soil meant life. Barren soil meant death. Between life and death stood the farmers, men who wrestled survival from earth and river, who gambled their lives on rain and flood. They understood that one bad harvest could destroy generations. This is the story of a farming village facing extinction, not from war, not from disease, but from the land itself turning against them. Meet Nuradad, 53 years old, village elder, farmer for 37 years. He had inherited 6 acres from his father. Good land close to an Euphrates irrigation canal. Land that had fed his family for 3 generations. Land that was now dying. The problem started slowly 5 years ago. The crops seemed slightly weaker, yields down a bit, normal variation. Everyone thought bad luck. Next year would be better, but next year was worse. The barley grew. Stunted, the dates produced less. The vegetables struggled. The following year was even worse, and the year after that. Parts of the field produced nothing at all. The soil was becoming toxic. The village had 40 farming families, all experiencing the same decline, all watching their land slowly die, and no one knew why. Nuradad organized a village council. Desperate farmers searching for answers. Some blamed the gods, suggested more temple offerings. Others blamed lazy farming, suggested working harder. Some blamed neighbors, accused them of cursing the land through witchcraft. But Nuradad was practical. He wanted evidence, not superstition. He examined the soil carefully. It looked normal, felt normal, but when he tasted it, a farmer's traditional test, it tasted strange. Slightly bitter, slightly sharp, different from healthy soil. He consulted with farmers from other villages. Their land was fine. Same river, same climate, same techniques. The only difference was location. The dying village was upstream. The healthy villages were downstream. Why would that matter? Then an old farmer, 81 years old and barely coherent, remembered something. 40 years ago, there had been a flood, massive. The Euphrates had overflowed its banks, changed course slightly. The irrigation canals had been rebuilt in slightly different positions. They moved the canal. The old man said, brought it closer, said it would make irrigation easier. Nuradad found the old canal maps, clay tablets showing irrigation routes from 40 years ago, and compared them to current routes. The old man was right. The canal had been moved, brought 300 feet closer to the farming village to improve water access, the record said, but something else had changed. Nuradad investigated, walked the canal route, and discovered that the new canal position ran through an area rich in mineral deposits, natural salts in the soil, usually harmless because they were underground, away from farmland. But the canal carried water that leached through these salt deposits, dissolving them, carrying dissolved salts to the irrigation channels, spreading them across the village farmland, year after year, slowly accumulating, poisoning the soil with salt. Salt accumulation, the silent killer of ancient agriculture. Once salt saturated the soil, nothing would grow. The land became permanently barren, and it was happening to their entire village. Nuradad brought his discovery to the village council. The diagnosis was clear. The prognosis was terrible. The canal route needed to change, had to be moved back to bypass the salt deposits, or the village would die. But changing a canal route wasn't a village decision. The irrigation system was controlled by the city, by Babylon's water management authorities. The village had no authority to alter it. They could only petition. Nuradad traveled to Babylon, met with water officials, explained the problem, showed soil samples, presented evidence of salt accumulation, requested the canal be rerouted back to its original path. The officials were skeptical. Canal routes didn't just change randomly. There had been reasons for the modification 40 years ago. The current route was more efficient, served more farmland. Yes, one village was having problems, but rerouting would inconvenience dozens of others. How many villages are affected? They asked. Just yours, Nuradad admitted. Then the problem isn't the canal, the officials concluded. It's your farming methods. Improve your techniques. He was being dismissed. his evidence ignored, his village's survival deemed less important than administrative convenience. Nur-Adad returned home with devastating news. The city wouldn't help. The village was on its own. They could continue farming dying land until complete failure, or they could abandon ancestral farms and move elsewhere, start over with nothing. The village council met in crisis. 40 families, 300 people facing impossible choices. Some wanted to stay, keep farming, hope for divine intervention. Others wanted to leave immediately, start over somewhere else while they still had resources. Nur-Adad proposed something different. Civil disobedience. They would reroute the canal themselves, without permission, without authorization, break the law to save their lives. It was illegal. The irrigation system was royal property. Unauthorized modification was a serious crime. They could be arrested, fined, possibly exiled. But the alternative was slow starvation. For their families, the village gathered. They voted. 32 families supported the plan. 8 opposed. The majority ruled. They would commit controlled, purposeful, documented civil disobedience to save their home. They did it openly, not in secret. They sent notice to Babylon's water officials. The message stated, "We are rerouting the canal back to its original path. We have documented the salt contamination. We have tried legal remedies. We are left with no choice. If you wish to arrest us, we will be at the canal site every day for the next month." Then they began work. 40 families, every able-bodied person, digging, moving earth, creating a new canal route that bypassed the salt deposits, following the old maps, restoring the original path. The work was brutal, moving tons of earth, lining new channels, diverting water, all while maintaining current irrigation so other villages weren't disrupted. Working through heat, exhaustion, and fear of arrest, the city's response came 2 weeks into construction. Officials arrived, not to arrest them, but to inspect. The water authority sent engineers. They examined the salt deposits, tested the soil, verified the contamination, checked the proposed new route. The engineers confirmed everything. The canal modification 40 years ago had indeed caused salt leaching. The contamination was real. The proposed reroute would solve it. The village had been right, but the officials faced a problem. If they approved the village's unauthorized work, they were encouraging illegal modification of infrastructure, setting a precedent that any village could alter canals without permission, creating potential chaos if they punished the village. They were condemning 300 people to starvation despite proven contamination, creating a PR disaster when the facts supported the farmers. They chose a middle path. The village's unauthorized work was declared illegal. They were fined a token amount, painful but not devastating. But the canal reroute was also officially approved, recognized as necessary due to unforeseen contamination. Future canal modifications would require official approval, but this specific case was retroactively legitimized. The village completed the new canal route. Water flowed through clean channels, free of salt contamination. The first growing season showed immediate improvement. The soil began recovering, yields increased, life returned to dying land. Nur-Adad paid his portion of the fine, 20 silver shekels. A month's earnings, painful but worth it. The land was saved. The village survived. The case established an important precedent. Environmental contamination could justify infrastructure modification even without prior approval, if citizens could prove contamination and attempt legal remedies first. Emergency self-help was defensible, not legal exactly, but defensible. Other villages facing similar problems took note. When official channels failed, documented civil disobedience became an option, not a first resort, but a last resort when survival was at stake. Nur-Adad lived another 12 years, saw the land fully recover, saw crops flourish again, saw his grandchildren inherit farms that would feed them. He had saved his village by being willing to break the law openly, publicly, and with full acceptance of consequences. His gamble was that authorities, when confronted with evidence and good faith civil disobedience, would choose pragmatic resolution over rigid punishment. He was right, but only because he had done everything correctly, tried legal channels first, documented the problem thoroughly, acted openly rather than secretly, accepted consequences. rather than fleeing them today. Archaeologists study ancient irrigation systems, find evidence of route modifications, salt, deposit patterns, agricultural recovery after contamination. The technical knowledge was sophisticated, but sometimes knowledge wasn't enough. Sometimes, survival required courage to act when systems failed. The last harvest wasn't the dying crop before abandonment. It was the decision to save the land by any means necessary, to fight for home even when the law said surrender, to believe that evidence and determination could overcome bureaucratic inertia. Nuradad didn't want to be a rebel. He wanted to be a farmer. But when the choice was between lawful death and unlawful survival, he chose survival and proved that sometimes the most moral act is the illegal one. The last harvest. Silent Babylon, where ancient civilizations speak.